The second year after our divorce, I ran into my ex-wife at the household registration office. She was holding a baby, only a few months old, with her childhood sweetheart and my son standing beside her. A perfect picture of a harmonious family of four. When my son saw me, he ran over excitedly and hugged me tight. "Dad, I missed you so much." I smiled faintly and gently pushed him away, looking towards my ex-wife. "Here to register the second child? Congratulations, you got your wish." She gave an awkward laugh. "I divorced him. I'm here to transfer the baby's household registration under my name." Then, her gaze shifted to my cousin and her child beside me. "What about you? Registering your kid?" I playfully tickled the baby in my cousin's arms, lowering my eyes slightly. "She's my cousin. I'm just helping her out. I never thought I'd see Winnie again under such circumstances." I had just finished helping my cousin register little Star's residency when E walked towards us, holding her infant. She stared at my cousin and the baby, surprised for a moment, then looked blankly at me. "Your child." After everything when E and I had been through, I didn't feel we could chat casually like old friends. I put my arm around my cousin's shoulder, steering her around them to leave. Before we took 2 steps, she hurried after us. "Is she your wife? Is that any of your business?" I frowned, annoyed at being blocked again. Seeing my cold and distant attitude, she stepped aside, a flicker of loneliness crossing her eyes. "It's been about 2 years since we last saw each other, hasn't it? I didn't expect you'd already be remarried with a child." I gave a sarcastic curl of my lip. Interesting choice of words. Was she the only one allowed to rush into marriage and have another child right after our divorce, while I was supposed to stay faithful and spend my days and nights pining for her? I remember 2 years ago, right here in this office, how she forced me to transfer our son's household registration to her name. I remember that day clearly. We got our divorce papers from the Civil Affairs Bureau at 9 in the morning, and by 3 in the afternoon, she couldn't wait to make me transfer our son's residency. After finishing the paperwork, I turned to leave, but she held our son's hand and screamed at me furiously. "Chun Jinhua, you were the one who insisted on the divorce. Don't you regret it? Ayao lost his parents, wife, and children in that car accident. He's been through so much. If I don't help him now, he might die. I only brought him home hoping my company would help him pull through. Why do you have to be so petty and small-minded? Besides, you're always so busy with work, never having time for me or our son. Ayao was the one keeping us company. You should be grateful to him." I looked back at our son, nodding vigorously, and at her, her eyes full of disappointment in me. Under their accusing gazes, I quickly walked away. I was always busy with work. No time for her and our son. How could she forget she was the one who said promotion prospects at headquarters were slim and pushed me to go to the provincial branch office? She even wrote and sent the transfer application for me. Now that I'd gone to the province and gotten promoted, she resented me for not having time for them. Walking out of the Public Security Bureau, looking at the familiar yet alien city, I had nowhere to go. It was my cousin who called, letting me stay in her vacant apartment for 2 days. When E and Feng Yao had known each other since they were little. As she put it, they were classmates starting from kindergarten. Both families assumed they'd end up together. They even enrolled them in the same university and major. But during their sophomore year, Feng Yao fell for a girl from a poor background. Captivated, he abandoned Winnie despite his family's objections and married the girl without hesitation. They had twin sons together. Nobody expected that in a single car accident, Feng Yao's wife, twin sons, and parents would all die. Devastated, Feng Yao disappeared for several days. In the end, it was when E who found him. She said when she found him, he was wandering by the river. If she'd been an hour later, he might have died. To prevent Feng Yao from doing anything drastic, she brought him back to our home without my consent, turning my game room into his bedroom. To make him comfortable, she redecorated the room according to his tastes, moving my prized computer equipment to the storage room. "Honey, Ayao is just staying temporarily. As soon as he's feeling better, I'll have him leave immediately. Just think of it as doing a good deed. Please let him stay, okay?" Winnie wheedled, squeezing into my arms when I came home and saw my game room transformed. Her eyes were pleading pitifully. Thinking about Feng Yao losing his entire family in one day, my heart softened. I suggested renting a separate apartment for him downstairs, so when he could still easily take care of him. But when he immediately refused. "Jinhua, why are you being so stingy? We have 3 bedrooms, more than enough space for Ayao. I'm all he has left in this world. I can't abandon him." I tried to explain further, but when E turned away, her face grim. "This isn't up for discussion. I've already told him. He's moving in tomorrow. But I never expected Wen Yi's immediately would stretch into Fong Yao living with us for a full year and 7 months. I worked out of province most of the time, only coming back once a month. Every time I returned, I longed for some alone time with Wen Yi, but she always pushed me away for Fong Yao. Either she'd promise Fong Yao she'd make his favorite crab hot pot, or she had to watch his favorite drama series with him right away. Everything was about Fong Yao. I'm allergic to seafood, so I couldn't eat what they loved. In the end, stomach rumbling, I'd go to the kitchen and make myself a bowl of instant noodles. One day, I received a call from the company's general manager. He said there was an opening at headquarters and asked if I was willing to transfer back from the province. I told him I'd discuss it with my wife and get back to him that evening. When he heard I could return to headquarters, on a lateral transfer no less, she didn't show the excitement I expected. Instead, she refused outright, her words full of resistance to me returning to her and our son. It was then I realized that if we continued living apart, our marriage was heading towards its end. So, ignoring her objections, I accepted the transfer back to headquarters. I never imagined that this very transfer back home would lead to the complete destruction of our marriage. After transferring back, I finished work at 5:30 p.m., drove for half an hour, and could be home by 6:00. But Wen Yi, despite knowing I got off work at 6 o'clock, never cooked for me. Yao, and I already ate at 5. There's leftover rice in the cooker. Why don't you make yourself some egg fried rice? Every time I came home, this was what he always said. I glanced at the dining table. There sat a clay pot of crab, more than half eaten. The tabletop was littered with the shells of swimming crabs, small abalones, and prawns. Silently, I cleared the mess off the table, put their used bowls and chopsticks into the dishwasher, and slipped into the kitchen to make my fried rice. Brother Chun, you don't mind, right? Wen Yi and I have loved seafood since we were kids. We're just used to eating this stuff. Fong Yao saw me in the kitchen, left the living room, and leaned against the kitchen doorframe. His words asked if I minded, but his eyes held no trace of guilt. I don't mind. Since I'd known how to cook since I was young, making some fried rice for myself wasn't really a hardship. As long as Wen Yi still loved me, as long as her heart was still mine, I truly didn't mind her eating some seafood with her friend Fong Yao. On our wedding anniversary, I had taken a day off in advance. Waking up that morning, I kissed Wen Yi and told her I had a surprise for her today, but she pushed me away in annoyance and turned over to go back to sleep. We're an old married couple now. I'm not really into surprises. I saw her resistance. Today's different. Today is our unwilling to give up. I placed my hand on her shoulder, wanting to tell her it was a special day. Today's Yao's birthday. I already promised him I'd go out to a restaurant to celebrate with him. Hubby, isn't it almost time for you to go to work? Aren't you leaving yet? Wen Yi shrugged, pushed my hand away, and pulled the covers over herself. I looked at her back, disappointed, and told her, today is also our 5th wedding anniversary. Hearing it was our wedding anniversary, Wen Yi's back clearly stiffened. Then, she turned around and hugged me, nuzzling her forehead against my chin. I'm sorry, I forgot it was our anniversary. Then I'll spend today with you. Wen Yi's arms circled my waist, but I could clearly feel that although she was right here with me, her heart was miles away. In the end, Wen Yi still didn't choose to spend the day with me. By the time I had bought the movie tickets, booked the restaurant, and was about to get the car to pick her up, she had already left the house. Hubby, Yao suddenly said he wanted to go for a walk alone by the river. I'm worried something might happen to him, so I've gone to find him. You go to the restaurant first. I'll come meet you once I find Yao. When he sent me a voice message on WeChat. I waited at the restaurant from 11 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. We never showed up. Hubby, Yao really jumped into the river. Go pick up our son. Bring Zi Chun to the hospital. Yao loves our Zi Chun the most. Seeing Zi Chun will definitely give him the will to live. When Wen Yi called again, all I could hear were ambulance sirens in the background. I could tell she was in the ambulance, heading to the hospital. Okay, I'll go get our son. I brought our son to the hospital. Wen Yi was tightly gripping Fong Yao's hand. Their fingers were interlaced, their eyes locked on each other, seeing only one another. Uncle Fong, you can't die. When you get better, I'll let you be my daddy. Seeing Fong Yao, our son Zi Chun suddenly pulled his hand free from mine and leaned over Fong Yao's bedside, his face full of concern. It was an earnest, caring expression he had never shown me. My fingernails dug into my palms instantly. My heart clenched painfully on the left side. My son, whom I had doted on, cherished, and loved since he was born, the son who used to sit on my shoulders and ride piggyback on me, had actually said he wanted Fong Yao to be his dad. Don't you have a daddy? Why do you want him to be your daddy? A little girl passing by with her mother overheard him and asked, confused. As far as she knew, every child loved their own parents best. Why would any kid not like their own dad and want someone else to be their dad? My daddy is always busy with work. He never picks me up from school, he doesn't play with me, and he doesn't even give me candy. I like Uncle Fong. He plays games with me at home every day and gives me all sorts of candy. Mommy says Uncle Fong is her favorite person too. So Mommy and I both want Uncle Fong to be my daddy. My son's words pushed me into the abyss once more. Others in the hospital room looked over at me, surprised. The atmosphere became awkward. When he looked even more uncomfortable, she glanced at me, her lips pressed tight. After a moment, she tried to explain. That was just something we said while playing a game. Don't take it seriously. I stared at her hand, still tightly clasped with Fong Yao's, which she hadn't let go of even now. Without a word, I turned and left the room. See? When E and your son like me more. Between you and me, she'll always choose me. I was smoking in the designated smoking area downstairs from the hospital. Suddenly, I received a text message from Fong Yao. After the text, he sent me a voice recording. Staring at Fong Yao's provocative text, when Yi's voice from the recording played endlessly in my head, my eyes started to sting. I put out my cigarette, left the hospital, and went home alone. Yao, as long as you're willing to live, I admit it's always been you I love. Please don't give up on yourself. And don't leave me. Every day and night by his side has been torture for me. How many nights, lying in the same bed, have I imagined it was you beside me? In the recording, Wan Yi's grief-stricken cries shattered the left side of my heart. I had always known when he didn't love me as deeply as I loved her. But I never knew that, from the very beginning, her love for me was fake, just an act. Even worse, during all those days and nights we shared a bed, she had actually been imagining I was Fong Yao. I could accept her being good to Fong Yao, but I couldn't accept that the person she loved wasn't me, but him. In this battle for love, I had lost. I had lost miserably. But before I could even bring up divorce, when he stormed home, she slapped me across the face, her delicate, pretty features twisted with anger. Chun Jinhua, I never thought you were this kind of person. Yao is still lying in a hospital bed, and you're asking him for money. He's living in our house because I beg him to stay. What right do you have to ask him for rent, food money, and hospital expenses? I gave a bitter laugh. A laugh so bitter it almost brought tears to my eyes. Did Fong Yao tell you that? You believe him over me? Yesterday, after getting Fong Yao's text, there was a moment where I couldn't accept it, and I called him. But as soon as he answered, I hung up. I didn't say a single word the entire time. When did I ever say I asked him for money? I know you haven't liked having Yao stay with us lately. You can't stand the sight of him. But there's nothing going on between us. Believe it or not, when he was still defiant, acting superior. After her explanation, she gathered Fong Yao's clothes, preparing to return to the hospital to care for him. I watched her bustling around Fong Yao's room, watched as what had once been my game room was now completely unrecognizable. I turned, grabbed our household registration booklet and marriage certificate. It won't take much of your time. Will you come with me to the Civil Affairs Bureau? Over something this small, you want to divorce me? At first, we didn't react. When it sank in, she stared at me, stunned, her brow deeply furrowed. In the past, seeing her frown like that would have made my heart ache. I would have lovingly pulled her close, gently smoothing the lines between her brows with my thumb. Now, I felt nothing at all. Yes, I said, over exactly this small thing. I want a divorce. At the Civil Affairs Bureau, Wan E and I quickly drew up the separation agreement. We agreed easily on the division of marital assets, but when it came to custody of our child, we hit a deadlock. Chun Jinhua, you heard him yourself. Our son doesn't like you. You spend far too little time with him, and besides, your job is so demanding. You can't possibly raise a child while working that much. Therefore, custody has to go to me. I looked at Wan Yi's face and nodded. After submitting the initial paperwork, we scheduled the final appointment for a month later. Exactly 1 month later, that morning, Wan Yi called. She couldn't wait, practically dragging me to finalize the divorce. Before we started the process, she'd asked, do we really have to divorce? But after we filed, she was terrified I'd back out, calling me at 8 a.m. sharp to push me. Finalizing the divorce went smoothly. Afraid I might have second thoughts and fight her for custody, that very afternoon, she practically forced me to go to the Public Security Bureau's household registration office to transfer our son's hukou into her name. Only by doing this did I completely lose any legal standing to fight for him. Only then could she relax and build her perfect family of 3 with Fong Yao. The memory faded. I glanced around the bustling government office hall, noticing curious, gossiping eyes fixated on us. Wan Yi's gaze followed mine relentlessly. I hadn't intended to explain, but I didn't want my cousin to be misunderstood. She's my cousin, I stated clearly. I'm just here helping her. As I finished speaking, my gaze swept lightly over the cute baby in her arms. Here to register the second child's huku? Congratulations. You finally got what you wanted. She forced an awkward smile. I've divorced him. I'm here to transfer the second child's huku to my name. Oh, I kept my expression neutral and turned to walk away. At that moment, my son suddenly grabbed my leg, tears welling in his eyes. Daddy, don't go. I miss you so much. Years ago, he was the one who'd said he wanted Fong Yao to be his daddy. He was the one who'd complained I didn't play games with him or give him candy, saying that why he liked Fong Yao better than me. Isn't he your dad now? I asked coolly. I haven't been your dad for a long time. When we divorced, I paid his entire child support up front in one lump sum. From the moment he uttered those words, that he wished Fong Yao was his father, I told myself, he's Fong Yao's son now. He has nothing to do with me. I gently pushed the boy away, a detached smile on my face, and looked up at Fong Yao, who stood nearby with his hands casually tucked in his pockets. Your son's holding on to me. I can't really go anywhere. Could you take him? Chen Jinhua dropped the act. Fong Yao sneered. When he divorced, you were devastated, practically dead inside. Now you hear we're divorced, and you just happen to show up here first thing? Your motives are painfully obvious. Want to hold your son? Go right ahead. Unlike you back then, I'm not that petty. Fong Yao had completely dropped his facade. He used to pretend to adore Chen Zichen, but now, the look in his lazily raised eyes was pure irritation and dislike directed at the child. Jinhua, when he pleaded, her expression a mixture of emotions. I know I wronged you back then. If you just give me one more chance, I promise I won't fail you again. Her eyes were filled with hopeful expectation. I stared back at them, a scornful twist to my lips. Their logic was truly baffling. Whatever issues your family of four has, figure them out yourselves. It's got nothing to do with me. It had been 2 years since when and I divorced. Their second child looked to be about 7 or 8 months old, meaning they must have gotten together almost immediately after we separated. Herself had once claimed Fong Yao was the only one she ever truly loved. I'd thought their great love was supposed to be rock solid, eternal. How long did that last before they couldn't make it work? Or perhaps their relationship was only exciting with me in the picture? Did it become bland and tasteless once I was out of the equation? Daddy, don't you want me anymore? My son pleaded, looking up at me pitifully, his eyes brimming with tears. Mommy and I have been looking for you for 2 years. Whenever I missed you, Mommy would show me the videos we made together. I really, really miss you. Please don't leave me, okay? He was still my flesh and blood, the child I had once treasured, held precious in the palm of my hand, cherished in my heart. I bent down, lifted him into my arms, and spoke each word slowly, with unshakable firmness. It wasn't me who didn't want you both. It was you who didn't want me. People have to live with the consequences of their choices. You chose him over me back then, even if you regret it now. That's the reality you have to accept. Live a good life with your mother from now on. I wish you health and happiness every day. With that, I set my son back down on his feet. Do you have to be so heartless? When he cried out, Zichen is your biological son. After all, there's no need to treat him like a stranger. Just a short while ago, when he had been terrified I'd try to take the child from her. Now, suddenly, she wanted me to shower him with fatherly affection. In her mind, I was clearly someone to be beckoned and dismissed entirely at her convenience. Do you have any idea how I survived right after the divorce? I stared at Winnie, finding her hypocrisy almost laughable. I forced myself to accept that what was over was over. I thought back to those dark days. If my cousin hadn't let me stay at her apartment, hadn't spent every day talking me down, helping me cope, I might have actually jumped into the river back then. But the thing that truly shattered me wasn't when he falling out of love with me. It wasn't my son rejecting me as his father. The final blow, the thing that truly broke me, was Fong Yao. The very night when and I finalized the divorce and transferred Zichen's huku, Fong Yao called me. He called just to taunt me, to tell me it had all been an elaborate act. He confessed that ever since his own wife and parents had died in that car crash, he'd been plotting ways to get back together with Winnie. Knowing she still carried a torch for him, he'd deliberately staged dramatic episodes, faking depression, even threatening suicide by jumping into the river. Even his moving into our home, my home, had been entirely his scheme, which he'd manipulated into suggesting. And Winnie, she had known the entire thing was a charade and had willingly played along. That's what broke me. The knowledge that when had known Fong Yao was putting on an act, yet she had enabled him, intentionally participated in his deception. Back then, after Fong Yao broke up with and married someone else, he and his new wife fought constantly. Gradually, he realized was better than his wife. So, taking advantage of that incident, and when Yi's soft-heartedness and malleability, he began to execute his plan step by step. His goal was to usurp my place, to take everything that should have been mine. That night, listening to Feng Yao's shameless and disgusting voice, I couldn't sleep a wink. I was utterly defeated, forced to swallow my anger and humiliation. Unexpectedly, 2 years passed, and I survived. But Feng Yao they had reached the end of their road. You're upset? Weren't you the one who wanted the divorce? If you had been more tolerant of Io back then, we wouldn't have ended up like this. Even now, when he still believed it was all my fault we'd reached this point. The words I had bottled up for over 2 years suddenly surged, desperate to be spoken. Not for any particular reason, just to get it all off my chest. I told Winnie everything about Feng Yao calling me, texting me, and the recordings. As luck would have it, the records for back then were still in my phone's cloud storage. I pulled them up and presented them all to Winnie. Your Io is so wonderful, you thought? Then why are you two getting divorced? Ms. Win, open your eyes wide and see. Between me and your precious Io, who is the real victim here? Did you really think my heart isn't made of flesh and blood? That it doesn't ache? Or did you honestly believe your little charade could fool me forever? My eyes were bloodshot. I thought I had long forgotten those past events. But recalling them now, my heart still ached fiercely. A bitter smile touched my lips. Seeing Wen Yi's eyes wide with disbelief, I threw down the evidence and turned to leave. Behind me, I could hear Wen Yi and Feng Yao arguing. I had no time for them. I urged my cousin to hurry into the car. But then my cousin gestured with her eyes, and I noticed my son clinging to the corner of her clothes, his eyes pitiful and innocent, welling with tears. Why are you following me? Go find your parents. I took his hand, intending to return him to Wen Yi and Feng Yao. But Chen Zichen clutched my hand and shook his head. Dad, they fight every day. I don't want to live with them. Can I stay with you? Fighting? I was surprised. When Feng Yao had lived in my house, his relationship with Wen Yi had seemed excellent. I'd never heard them argue once. Yes, Uncle Feng always says Mom is too lazy, and Mom always scolds Uncle Feng for lazing around at home all day, not earning money, and on top of that, not even helping her with my little sister. Ever since Mom had my little sister, they don't care about me anymore. Mom promised to take me to the museum, but she forgot. Can you take me to the museum? When Chen Zichen was with me before, no matter how busy I was with work, I always fulfilled his requests. Even if I couldn't spend the whole day with him, I'd spend an hour or two. Growing up, he had everything other children had. He'd been to all the places other children had been. When he always claimed I was too busy with work and didn't spend time with them. In reality, apart from work, all my time was devoted to them. To spend more time with them, I sacrificed all the hobbies I had before marriage. It was when E, who was greedy and insatiable, her demands on me growing ever higher. She never saw her own faults, always shifting the blame onto me. Before, I loved her, doted on her, and never refuted her complaints. Over time, she came to believe that everything was indeed my fault, that I didn't spend enough time with them. I have things to do today. If you want to go to the museum, why don't you ask your mom? For a moment, I wavered. But then I saw my cousin holding her child, constantly adjusting her clothes to get a better grip, looking like she was struggling with the weight. I urged Chen Zichen to quickly go find Winnie, while I took Little Star from my cousin's arms. Little Star was adorable, with tiny dimples when she smiled. She looked just like Chen Zichen when he was little. I was particularly fond of Little Star, and my eyes softened unconsciously as I held her. Chen Zichen stared at me and Little Star, tears falling to the ground one by one. Dad, I'm your child. Why are you so nice to someone else, but you ignore me? Chen Zichen wailed loudly. He was aggrieved and miserable, but I truly didn't have the time for him. Making sure when he saw Chen Zichen at the gate, I didn't look back. I took my cousin and her child back to her home. Are you really giving up on Zichen? He's your son, after all. Kids are just immature. They'll be fine when they grow up. My cousin sighed softly. She had just divorced her husband. Today, she had gone to the household registration office to transfer her child's custody to her name. As a mother, she understood a parent's love for their child. She seemed to understand me, yet at the same time, not quite. He's only choosing me temporarily because he's not getting fatherly love from Feng Yao. If Feng Yao coaxes him with games and candy like before, he'll abandon me for him again. Children can be ignorant, yes, but some are inherently cold-hearted. I remembered when he was little. I'd give Chen Zichen tasty treats, and, to tease him, ask for a bite. He always refused. I've seen many children who would share when their parents asked for a bite of their food. Back then, I told myself, Chen Zichen is my son. He's a bit cold towards me, a bit selfish. I just need to teach him patiently. But later, I discovered some things truly can't be changed. All right, well, It's your business to handle. Thank you so much for today. If it weren't for you, I don't know how I would have managed running errands with the baby on my own. My cousin thanked me sincerely. I nodded politely and then turned into the elevator. After leaving my cousin's place, I went straight back to the company. When he said she tried to find me, but couldn't. That's simply impossible. My main company office hadn't moved, the address hadn't changed. Although my department and position were different, if she had really wanted to find me, she could have. CEO Chun, this is the agenda for today's meeting. Please take a look. If there are no issues, we'll proceed with this. My secretary handed me a folder when she saw me return to the office. I glanced through it, saw no problems, and asked her to confirm the meeting time and attendees. The afternoon's work ended. I had dinner in the company cafeteria, and I was about to head back to my dorm. Suddenly, Wenyi's call came through. I had no idea how she got my number. Recognizing her voice, my brows furrowed tightly. I've been calling you all afternoon. Why are you only picking up now? What on earth did you say to Zichin? Why has he been crying nonstop since he got home? Wenyi's voice was full of accusation the moment she spoke. He said you promised to take him to the museum, but stood him up. Instead of grilling me, why don't you look for reasons within yourself? I could hear 2 children crying on Wenyi's end. One was my son, and the other was her younger daughter with Fang Yao. One crying child is enough to break a mother, let alone 2 she was handling at that moment. I can only imagine how overwhelmed she must be. Jinhua, I know you're the company's vice president now. Speaking of which, the reason you reached this position so quickly was because of the choice I made for you back then. Can you give me another chance? After you left, I realized you were the one I truly loved. My feelings for Fang Yao. It was all just pity. When he was stunned by my questions. After a long silence, she began to sob softly on the other end of the line. Listening to her heart-wrenching cries, I scoffed. Pity for him? So, you pitied him so much that you only had eyes for him and not me? If I hadn't been promoted, or if I'd even been demoted by the company, would you still be begging me to get back together? Right after Wen-yi and I divorced, deeply affected by the whole Fang Yao situation, I was in a terrible state. I made many careless mistakes at work, things I shouldn't have, and was even publicly criticized by the general manager in a company-wide meeting. When he had no idea how devastating her impact on me was, it affected every aspect of my life, not just personally, but mentally too. If I hadn't been strong enough, if I hadn't put in several times more effort than others, I would never have climbed to where I am today. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? It was one thing when I was supporting my son. Now you expect me to support your second child with Fang Yao too? Ms. When do I, Chen Jinhua, look like a complete doormat to you? I hung up and immediately blocked Wenyi's number. Then I remembered I'd filled out some forms at the household registration office earlier today when I was helping my cousin with some paperwork. That, I figured, was probably where she'd found my new number. I hadn't expected that after our encounter at the registration office, when E would start hounding me. Every day, she'd wait with her 2 children at my company's entrance when I arrived and left work. The moment she saw me, she wouldn't dare approach, just gaze at me pitifully. I pretended not to know her and walked straight into the company without a backward glance. After she loitered outside the company too many times, the security guards shooed her away. But since she had 2 children with her, the guards weren't too harsh. They even brought her a couple of stools and a bottle of water. As I was leaving work, when he approached me again, I need to talk to you, when he said. My colleagues who were also leaving all turned to look at me. Ms. One, if you have a problem, go to the Women's Federation. If they can't solve it, call the police. I can't help you. My expression was cold. With that, I walked past them without a shred of hesitation. Chun Zichin, seeing my firm stance, rushed in front of my car, blocking it. He looked as if he dared me to drive over him if I didn't get out. Looking at his stubborn face, I sighed softly and got out of the car. Dad, you have to get back with Mom. If you abandon us, Mom said she'll bring me here to block you at your company every day. Chun Zichin said fiercely. I didn't know what when he had told him these past few days to make him so adamant. Doing this will only cause more trouble for me. I didn't tell Chun Zichin that I was about to be transferred to another province to head a branch office. Their so-called threats were utterly useless against me. Dad, I was wrong. I apologize. Please, will you forgive Mom and me? Chun Zichin, noticing my displeasure, changed his tack. He even reached for my hand. I took his small hand and squatted down. I'm telling you this for the last time. Your mother and I can never get back together. Tell her to give up on that idea. Stay with her and make sure she takes good care of you. If you encounter problems you really can't solve, come to me. I'll help if I can. That was all I could say. After that, when he never came to my company looking for me again, and I, with my transfer orders, went to the branch office in a coastal city. I poured all my time and energy into my work, completely uninterested in and making no inquiries about when E and her 2 children. Years later, I heard that when E had remarried, this time, she wasn't concerned about love. She just looked for someone rich, even if he was older than her, shorter than her, and not gentle with her. Her social media feed maintained an exquisite facade, but occasionally, an accidentally revealed arm would show bruises from being hit. She kept having children, one after another, just to give her third husband a son. As for Fang Yao, he remained unemployed after divorcing Winnie. Some time ago, I saw his photo and information on the city's list of discredited individuals. According to the details, he owed a lot of money to many people. As for Chen Zichen, Winnie sent him off to a boarding school at a very young age. Occasionally, when I was swamped with work, I'd get a call from him, and I'd find a moment to ask how he was doing. I didn't have the time or capacity for more fatherly love and care.